Hello! Alright guys, this is the mission. We are not going to stop under any condition. We have exactly, I want to say 2 hours that I'll be live for, maybe an hour and a half, depending on how well it goes. So an hour and a half, and then tomorrow we have about an hour and a half as well in school where we'll be able to revise. So, I'm going today to be doing some of the more difficult and complex stuff that we haven't gone through very much in lessons. And then basically I will be tomorrow, obviously, with our teacher, we'll be going through some more of a hopefully, more common sense stuff. Because you guys need to remember, biology paper 2 it's a weird fusion of very technical explanations and just common sense. Some questions will ask you the most basic and generic thing ever, like explain why, if a predator decreases in population, prey will go up. Like, oh, I wonder, what the correlation there is. But other questions will be awful, like explaining why, I don't know, the population of this animal will lead to a inheritance of this animal, inheritance traits. I don't know. I'm just rambling here. So anyways, let me go get my computer open because I actually downloaded a video which contains everything about this paper. And what I thought I would do is I would kind of have the image of it in the background so that I can get backed up and stuff. So, just to make sure nobody gets ticked off here or anything, shit, wrong link. There we go. Okay. I need to send Alex the link, but I don't think I have WhatsApp downloaded on my computer. Nope, and it'd take too long to set up. Okay. Well, hopefully, if Alex wants to watch, he can. Okay. So, let me go get this video loaded up. There we go. Alright, so yeah, this is a very nice video. And firstly, we're going to do homeostasis, okay? Now, before we even jump into it, how about this? How about we just dump everything we already know beforehand on this topic? How about we just dump everything we know, and then we can add some extra details? So, again, there's multiple parts to this. You, of course, have the regulation of body temperature. Regulation of water. And regulation of glucose. Now, I have a suspicious feeling... Okay, this camera needs to be... Okay, I am just writing on a slant. I have just kind of realised that. Because of the way that my tripod is, yeah, I'm writing on a slant. Hope you guys can still see this. And if not, just listen to what I'm saying. So, we have the ways to regulate body temperature, the water concentration, and glucose. So let's kind of break all of these down. So, if your body has a high temperature, what happens? Well, again, this is kind of one of those common sense subjects. If you're running, you're going to be warm, aren't you? So obviously, what happens as a result? Well, sweating. That, I suppose, allows not water, sorry. It allows, I mean, again, the thing I don't like about this topic is mainly you know the processes, but you need to explain why, and it can sometimes really catch you off guard, even if, like, you know. Like, I'm assuming the reason why you sweat is because heat is then kind of removed through the water of the sweat, but I don't know if that's true or not. I honestly can't confirm. I will, again, this video here is really useful, and I'm gonna go check it out. Oh, okay, here. The video has already helped here by explaining. So basically, the technical explanation for sweating, in case you got like a 3-mark question on it, would be your sweat glands produce water. We know that. That's what sweat is basically. And it evaporates. So a big thing to think about for this paper as well is linking it to ideas of blood, diffusion, active transport, right? You can link protein synthesis to diffusion. You can link a lot of the temperature stuff to blood. If you have a drink of cold water, it is absorbed, I guess coldness is absorbed by the blood, and that reduces your rate of sweating. So, yeah, sweating, which I'll just put here, is water from sweat glands. And it evaporates and it takes away the heat. Because remember, you know, if your body gets too warm, it's going to obviously denature the enzymes and you're going to fucking die. So that's what homeostasis is, you know, the regular, normal body functions in a sense. You know, you don't want everything to be too high or too low. You want it to be just right, and that's kind of that. So, high temperature. There is also a process, and I've just looked here because I can't exactly remember how you say it. It's vasodilation. Vasodilation. Now, dilation of blood vessels. So, I guess a good way I remember is in Better Call Saul, they make Howard Hamlin look like a drug addict, and they give him this drug which makes his eyes widen. That's dilation, when something widens. Constriction, if you think of it like a snake, it shrinks. So, dilation, so your blood vessels get bigger. Why would this be? Logically think. The reason why is because then, think, your blood vessels are then closer to the surface of your skin, meaning that not only is more blood able to flow through, but also, just logically, then heat, which is, remember, in the blood, heat is in the blood, is then, you know, let off. It's lost. Heat is lost. Heat is taken away. Think, you always have to link heat to blood. That's what I think, at least, anyways. You know, if you drink, well, don't drink a hot liquid, but if you're warm, you know, that's heat in your blood, really, that's being let off. And again, the opposite is for a low temperature. Literally just think of it as the complete opposite. A lot of things, the eye, you could link a lot of it to opposites. If you only know one thing, that's fine. So look, low temperature, you're just going to say that no sweating. So obviously, no heat is being evaporated, you're conserving your body temperature. Also, unique with a low temperature is shivering. I don't recall what the exact terminology is. I think it's where your muscles just kind of move, which produces heat. Because if your muscles are moving, that's producing, I guess, kinetic energy in a way because you're moving. movement causes that energy to be created. So yeah, shivering, which is just muscles. I think it's actually muscles contracting, which causes it. Don't at me on that though. Again, what I'm trying to get as much explanation in, because imagine it's a 6-mark question, you know, explaining the body temperatures. Like, you know, if that's a 6-mark question, you're gonna need a lot of detail. So even picking up on 1 or 2 things that I say here could be useful. Also unique with a low temperature is your body hairs stand up. And basically what that does is obviously it means less heat is going to be able to escape from the blood vessels. Also, of course, your blood vessels themselves are going to constrict. That's vaso. Is it vaso? Yes, vasoconstriction. And also, I should mention that your blood vessels, not blood vessels, your body hair in a high temperature will, I guess, go flat in a sense. Because then, if they're flat, it means that heat is able to get out. It's not being blocked up by the, the hairs. So think of it almost like, grass in a way, standing up, going down. Anyways, that's kind of that. If I missed anything there, please let me know, because remember, we need to know as much. I'm looking at this video here, and there is one more thing to mention, and it's just how it links to the brain. Your brain detects the blood temperature change, and it sends nervous hormonal signals to the effectors. We know that. The effectors are obviously, in this case, going to be your sweat glands, your body hair. They're going to be things like, your blood vessels, and your muscles as well for shivering. So yeah, always link it back to blood, always link it back to the brain detects these changes, and it sends nervous and hormonal, remember, nervous and hormonal signals to the respective effectors. So yeah, I'm going to draw like a kind of brain here to kind of emphasize that. Link to me. Alright, now, at the end of every little subtopic, I'm going to give it a little rating out of 10 in terms of difficulty. This is a 2. This is easy. You know this because you guys get warm, you guys get cold. We know this based on actual applications. The only thing that will probably stump some people is being able to explain what these changes really do. I can explain when I get warm, I sweat, but why? Like, what does that really do with body temperature? It evaporates heat. Let's move on to water, which I believe is probably the most complex one, because I think it's higher only. So, ADH, that is a hormone, I believe. I believe that this it has H in, so it has to be a hormone. It is produced and it causes your, no, I can't, how do you pronounce this? Tubules? I'm going to call it the tubules in the kidneys to reabsorb water. So I feel like I might be missing something here. Oh, wow, okay, much easier section. Turns out, oh, this is great. This is a great video. Okay, so ADH, we don't need to know for this water section, if I'm not mistaken. What we need to know is that water is lost when you exhale. Okay? When you just literally think, when you breathe, it kind of feels moist. That's because water vapor. So water is lost through exhalation. It's also obviously lost through sweating. But the big one is urination. And that's the kidney function. So excess water is removed from... So remember, blood. Blood is... Link it to everything here. Literally, link it to that, link it to this, link it to this. Blood, link it to everything. Okay? Basically, remember plasma and how that always contains CO2, glucose, water. You know now. That is obviously a thing. Excess water is removed from the blood by the kidneys. And I think that the process is initially diffusion. Because, alright, let's imagine this. Let's say we have a blood vessel here, full of water, goes into here. I'm just going to draw the kidney as a circle. It goes into here, it slowly fills up. Eventually, you're going to have a negative concentration gradient, where there's only a little bit of water left, and the kidney has more water. In that instance, active transport is going to be needed in order to completely fill the kidneys. But the kidneys don't really get full up, I guess, because they take it to the bladder. So the kidneys take it to the bladder. Now, water is mixed with urea. I'm not sure if we need to really remember this, but it's a very easy word to remember, urea. To make urine. Piss. And urea actually contains ammonia. That's why sometimes I think glasses sprays contain ammonia. And that's why people often be like, oh, it smells like piss if you like spray it on yourself. That's literally why, because ammonia is in urea. And urea obviously contains ammonia, which contains nitrogen. So a little hidden exam question we might get is something in relation to nitrogen, perhaps. What if we get a question on, I don't know, explain how nitrogen is lost through the kidneys? People will be like, shit, I don't know what it is. Just think. Literally just think about what I've said there. Okay. So, the way ammonia is actually obtained, in case you maybe get a scummy question on it, ammonia is obtained, or I'm just going to put found. Ammonia is obtained through when amino acids are broken down. Contains ammonia from amino acids obtained from excess proteins. So remember, the liver breaks down shit. So those excess proteins are going to get broken down into obviously what they're made of, amino acids. Those amino acids will make nitrogen. So I'm just going to put found in amino acids. And I believe that's it. Controlling water and nitrogen levels. Now, you could also link this to those two words that I can't remember. Hypertonic and hypotonic. You could link it to them in a way. Because cells too may contain too much water. I mean, look at this little drawing here, right? Imagine there's a perfect amount of water here. Okay, so it's just right. Too much in here, so it could burst. And then I'll draw like a little shriveled version because there's no water. Cells can lose and, I guess, obtain water too, but I think they struggle with it in a sense. They obviously need osmosis and osmosis. They need to use osmosis in order to regulate their body. I'm just going to put osme. They use osmosis to regulate it. So that's water. Now there is another subsection of water which we'll get into in a bit with the kidneys. This is just a little overview, alright? Next is glucose. Now this is the Luke Miller topic, okay? This one is rather kind of, not complex, but like, it's rather just kind of convoluted. So, let's assume we have a high glucose level. What happens? Well, your pancreas are going to, and remember this word, secrete. I'm just going to put pancreas secrete insulin. And what does insulin do? Well, obviously it's a hormone, which means it's almost like, yeah, it's a chemical kind of thing. It tells the body what to do. That's the way I remember it. So the insulin tells, in a way, the glucose to move from the bloodstream into cells. So it basically makes them use their function. So instead of just hanging out in the, the blood, in plasma, remember, it's actually saying, piss off, go be used for something. But if there is a shit ton and we can't use it all for respiration, it's converted into glycogen. And I highlighted the word gly because there is another word similar to it, glucagon, I think. And that's for low, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, low. So for low, the pancreas secretes, they secrete glucagon. Glucagon. So think of it this way. Gly sounds a little bit like high, and it only is secreted if it's a high level. Glucagon sounds like gone, as if there's no... Look, it's a stupid way of remembering it, but if that helps you guys get an extra mark, I'll take it. That'll help me, I know for a fact. Gly, high, gone, none. So glucagon is again a hormone, and it causes the liver and the muscles to convert glycogen back into glucose. So, glycogen, which is the storage, remember, a bit like how plants store glucose as starch, it tells this to get into its glucose. Gly into glucose. So it's basically telling these big storage things to open up in a way. So this is an example of what's called negative feedback, but I'm not sure if we really care. Now in type 2 diabetes, so remember type 1 is where it's genetic in a way, it's kind of just there from when you're born. If I'm not mistaken, that's just where your pancreas can't produce insulin. RIP, I guess. But type 2 is where cells, they couldn't give a toss about glucose. They can't absorb it. And a good way of just remembering this is just put didn't ask. That's how I'll remember it. Type 2, they just didn't ask. Because think about it this way. They're being so people who have type 2 diabetes, obese, they're quite... Alright, we're back. So like I was saying, people who have type 2 diabetes probably don't live the healthiest of lifestyles. So because of that, they are likely going to have day in, day out been exposed to large amounts of sugar. And what does that mean if they're being exposed to large amounts of sugar? Well, what it means is that, ta-da, their body is now kind of not giving a shit about sugar. Okay, I will move on to that in a bit. I will move on to this in a bit, guys. But, I'm going to be totally honest, I don't think it'll come up. And the only reason I say that is, I feel like last year there were a couple questions on embryos and stuff, or maybe that was paper 1 with stem cells. I don't think it'll come up. If it does, there's just kind of some generic stuff you could say, isn't there? Like, embryo screening, I mean, you can kind of infer from it what it is. You can kind of infer, okay, it's screening of embryos. Likely, you could just ramble about I don't know, removing the embryo, maybe a mark for literally saying that. If it's a 6-mark question, I would be surprised. Especially because of how kind of like thing the world is now. I feel like it might cause ethical kind of issues in a way. This is both, so I'll be covering higher and foundation kind of mixed in. I'm watching a video now which has all the little spark notes and stuff. So what I'm doing is I'm just going through it, but I'm using my own knowledge too, so I'm actually revising. So yeah, type 1 is where it just doesn't give a shit about insulin, it can't produce it. Type 2 is where it just could not care less about glucose. And a good way of treating this is just to bloody exercise. I guess just low-fat diet and exercise. I guess technically a transplant, I don't know, can you get pancreas transplants? I don't know. Maybe don't say that in the exam, but look, that might be one. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, it is. There was another treatment option that they did many years ago where they injected healthy cells that made insulin into people with diabetes, but it was very, very bad. It didn't work. So, there you go. That is the beginning of the homeostasis topic. Just gone through temperature, how the body manages that. Just remember to link it to the blood, link it to the brain. Water, which remember how it's lost through exhalation, sweating, and urination. Just link it to, again, diffusion, or I guess, actually, should it be osmosis? No, because it's water, isn't it? It's a mix of water and other stuff. I'll get back to that one. I'll figure that out. But yeah, just remember that diffusion and active transport, a mix of both, fill up the kidneys, goes to the bladder, and it's obviously excreted that way. And just remember, if you get a weird question about nitrogen, just link it to ammonia and how that's found in the amino acids. Also, obviously, glucose. If there's a high amount, it's glycogen. If it's a low amount or none, it's glucagon. That's how I'll remember it, at least. And then, obviously, glycogen's function is a bit like starch in the plant. It's just there to store it. And glucagon basically just unwraps this glycogen. Type 1 and type 2, you know them, and how to obviously help them. So, that is the first part of a lot. Now, should we... Let's keep talking about the kidney. We'll go on to the menstrual cycle, because unfortunately we need to know this, and I don't think Mr. Hooper's ever gone through it, which means I'll have to be the bearer of bad news here. And after that, we will have to wrap right back around to talking about the everything else. So the nervous system, flipping the eye as well. Okay, obviously you guys probably won't be able to see this very well because I am having to force the quality down a lot. Having to force it down a lot because otherwise the stream would be about an hour or 5 minutes behind and I wouldn't be able to reply to people's stuff. So apologies for that, okay? Basically, I'm just kind of explaining the stuff that I'm writing down anyways. So we've just gone through temperature, water, and glucose and how they're managed in proper detail. So again, I'll just quickly recap. Temperature is just common sense. You know how temperature's lost. Link it to the blood, link it to the brain. Water, just link that to, literally just how water's lost kind of thing. And if you get a weird question about nitrogen, link back to amino acids and ammonia. And then glucose, just remember high is gly and low is glucagon. And then obviously the two types of diabetes, but you know them. Anyways, let's do the kidneys, because again, I have no proper idea whether we've... whether we've done these. So yeah, RIP drawings. Again, these are just here so that if someone joins or whatever, I can just look back. And yeah, we will get onto the cloning bit later. That is, I'm assuming, the DNA topic. So we have a while to go yet. Again, I just listen to this in the background. I wouldn't pay attention too much to what I'm doing here because, you know. Anyways, we already know ADH. But what does that actually do? It's obviously from the, I can't pronounce this, it's the pituitary gland. Pituitary, I can't pronounce it. I'll just call it the master gland, because that's kind of what it is. So that produces it, and it causes these things called tubules. Again, I can't pronounce shit, guys. I'm British. Pituitary. Okay, thank you. Tubules? I don't know, bro. But basically, it causes them, which are in the kidneys, because we're talking about kidneys here, it causes them to reabsorb water back into the bloodstream. And if the water levels are too high, less is made. So again, this is kind of a feedback thing. If there's too much in the kidneys, some of it gets reabsorbed. And if there's too high, more is sent in. So it's the feedback system. If there's too much, less is made. If there's too little, more is made. And that's kind of all that I'm looking at here, really. It says kidneys not... Oh yeah, the dialysis thing. So that's kind of... It almost creates like an artificial kind of kidney in a sense. The blood is filtered by a machine. And it kind of creates this thing where all of the bad stuff is just kind of removed. The ammonia and urea. Right, now on to the thing which we have definitely not done with Mr. Hooper. I literally, in the after school, bro just skimmed over this like it was nothing. But this could literally, I have looked at past papers, this may appear, so we're going to have to do it. It's the bloody menstrual cycle. Now, I feel like we only just need to know the names of the hormones and their functions. I think that's all we need to do, okay? I don't think we need to go into in-depth about anything like that. But I have looked at exam questions where it's like, explain the function of this hormone. Explain why this occurs. So we need to know it, okay? Even if it's 10 marks, that's still quite a significant part of the GCSE. So I'll go through all of them. So basically you have FSH. I don't know if you need to really know what that stands for, but it's the follicle stimulating hormone. And of course that's sent from the master gland. So I'll just put Pitt's gland. We could draw a table, I guess, to visualize this. And it causes the egg to mature. Causes the egg to mature and the ovaries. It just kind of says ... here, so I'm assuming. Oh, right, I get it. This is a kind of weirdly worded thing, but it causes the ovaries to produce the next thing. And I'm assuming it's not estrogen, it's estrogen. This causes the uterus lining to thicken. And as just said, this is produced by the ovaries. So you can link these two together. The FSH produces, well, it tells the ovaries to produce this one. So yeah, that's the lining, it makes it thicker. It also stops FSH. So, it's like a little loop in a way, the FSH produces that, and then that stops that. So it's an interesting little system. It also causes the pituitary gland, I'm just going to pronounce it like that because I think that's a funny name. It causes it to produce the next one, which I think is the luteinizing hormone, LH. So notice how all of these are linked together in a way. That could be something if in a 6-mark question you could link all of these together beautifully. And this basically just causes the egg itself to be released. So these two kind of hype it up, build it up, and then this kind of just, makes it actually happen. And then obviously the egg's released, it starts to travel towards the uterus, and a sperm can fertilize it during this process. And then finally, progesterone, yes. Again, please bear with me if I can't really pronounce many of these things because I'm complicated, okay? I have many things to do here. So yeah, progesterone, it's secreted by the ovaries and it just maintains that lining. So it maintains lining. Maintains this thick lining. So, I believe that's it. I believe that's what we need to know. How easy was that? We spent 3 minutes on that, and that was rather nice. So, FSH, I think... Oh yeah, Miss Collinson, if I recall, she used the acronym FULP for this. FULP. That's a funny one, I guess, but you can use it. So yeah, it first starts where the egg matures, the lining gets thicker, and remember, these three here link into each other. So the FSH begins to produce that, and then obviously, yeah, the lining thickens, the FSH is stopped, the luteinizing hormone releases the egg, and then the lining is just maintained. So, that could literally be a 6-mark question. And all you would really have to do is just remember the names of them, how they kind of link into each other, and then think, the egg matures, the lining thickens, the egg is released, and the lining is maintained. That could be the easiest 6 marks of your life, and you guys might not have got that because Mr. Hooper didn't explain it to us. He might tomorrow, but by that point it's pretty late, isn't it? If you're only learning it then. So that's the menstrual cycle. Now, we could talk about contraception, but I think we should bring it back to... Let's talk about the... Okay, that we could quickly talk about the different glands, but I won't even write for this, we'll just do it. So obviously you have the master gland, it sends signals to the other glands, but the big boss, okay? The pancreas, obviously we've just gone through their function. The adrenal glands release adrenaline, thyroid, that is an interesting one, thyroxine. That kind of regulates the metabolism, which I can't remember the exact definition, but I'm pretty sure it's the sum of all reactions in the body. So basically like respiration and shit, If you have a low metabolism, I don't know if you should be, Anyways, let's just wrap it back to the eye now. This is a big one to think about because there's a lot that they could ask here. They could ask, how does the eye focus on nearby or far away images? How does the eye adjust to dark or bright conditions? How does the eye get helped? Fixed? I don't know. How can you treat certain eye conditions? Look, I'm feckin' tired, guys. Apologies if I'm incessantly rambling here. But anyways, I'll try and draw this. I'll literally just draw a circle because I'm no artist, okay? So yeah, you have the kind of eye bit here. Now, according to Mr. Hooper, you do in fact need to know every single function and name of the eye, which is something I did not want to have to learn fucking Thursday night, but we're gonna have to do it. We have the cornea. Just like Eminem said, I'm watching my pupils get cornea. And that's, I guess, the kind of out of it, okay? So cornea, I don't know how you would really remember that. Popcorn, it's the outer bit that you're eating. Look, it's the outer bit, alright? You have, then inside this kind of little thing, which I'll draw in a very crude fashion so that I can annotate it. So you have the lens in the middle, okay? That makes sense if you have a magnifying glass lens, which I probably do on my architecture shelf. I don't know, where the hell is my flippin' magnifying glass at? Oh, that would have been a cool little demonstration. In fact, I know where it is. A couple months ago, we cleaned out my room, and I've since have struggled to find absolutely anything again. Okay, I don't know where it is. I thought that was going to be a cool little demonstration. Okay, that's unfortunate. But yeah, lens, just remember it. It's a lens. You have your iris. Those are, I guess you could just visualize them as things holding up the lens. Like Jeremy said in the song You Watch Me, can't see me, your iris is torn. Can't see me like Japanese porn. That is an actual lyric by Jeremy. But it makes sense if your iris is torn, you know, your lens might not be fully, I guess, stable. Man was onto things. Okay, we have the retina, which I did not know this right up until now, is at the back of the eye. Now, here's my thought process, knowing nothing about the eye. I'm assuming that when light goes through, that's what it is. That's what it is. Oh my god. When light goes through, it converges into the retina, the light, and then obviously into the optic nerve. And the optic nerve carries an electrical signal through obviously the nerve cells to the brain, which then kind of interprets this kind of a message, the light obviously, and then it gives a response. And is that it? Oh, there's the sclera. Sclera, I don't know how you pronounce that. It's the thick tissue, okay? Thick tissue, thick muscles, sorry. That's why if you try and cut someone's eye open, it might require a bit of effort. Don't ask how I know that. Now, we also have here these little bits here that I'm going to circle. We have the suspensory ligaments and ciliary muscles. I'm going to pronounce it like that. Don't mean to piss in your cereal. Suspensory ligaments, or I'm just going to put sus ligaments. Time is of the essence, after all. And the ciliary, Jesus Christ. Now, these two have an interesting relationship, which I'll point out now. Basically, from far, if we see this pen from far away here, basically, the muscles are going to relax. Okay? So I'm going to put far. The muscles relax. The muscles relax. So, when they relax, they're obviously going to go whoop. And basically, what that means is that the ligaments are going to tighten. And as a result, your lens is going to get thicker. Because, just imagine it this way, right? It's this, and then it's going to kind of loosen, which means it's going to thicken. But obviously your lens can't just kind of shrink shape, so it's going to get fatter. I really wish there was a way of me visualizing this, but like, I don't know. Just kind of imagine it. You guys can visualize that, right? If I have an object that can't really be compressed, and I squish it, it's just gonna get wider. It's gonna get thicker. And what that means is basically light from far away is going to be... I can't really understand that diagram there, so I may need to quickly check a mark scheme or something. But you can literally just get a couple of marks for saying that. You should also talk about diameter. You should talk about the fact that there is now a wider diameter. The lens has a wider diameter. That'll get you a mark, trust me. And then obviously if you're looking at something close, the opposite happens. The muscles tighten. So your ligaments are going to relax. Which means there's a less diameter, which means it's going to be thin. If I'm not mistaken, this might be the other way. Other way around. My mistake. There is a larger diameter this one and a smaller diameter that one. My mistake there. Now again, I can't particularly, mainly because we haven't been taught the eye pretty much, explain to you how that makes the eye work. As in like when looking at something far away. I'm assuming when the lens is thicker, then it means the light going through is going to converge on the retina. And then when obviously when it's like thinner, it means that, the light is going to be kind of, I don't know. It won't convert, it should converge on. Let me Google that quickly. Because I honestly do not recall. I do not recall. And I would hate to spread misinformation here. What do you call it? Let me see if BBC Bite Size has something. So yeah, the lens becomes thicker. We get this. Oh, okay. It's refraction. So basically, when you're looking at something near, light is refracted strongly. When you're looking at something distant, light is only refracted slightly. Now, I have looked here at the mark scheme, and it turns out you could lose marks for saying, but the ligaments and the muscles relax. I think that is bullshit. But in other words, you should maybe use the word dilate instead for like talking about the muscles. And obviously for suspensory ligaments, don't use the words tighten and not tighten, sorry. Don't use the word relax. Talk about it slackening and loosening or being stretched and tightened, okay? Try and avoid the word relaxed if you can, because it has in mark schemes actually drop people marks if they say that. Now, convex and concave. So convex lenses, if I'm not mistaken, is for long-sightedness. So I'll just write vex. And then cave is for short distance. How they work, I could not tell you. I seriously couldn't. Again, I don't know this topic at all. I'm purely just reading this information off BBC Bite Size. I really would love to tell you guys how. Oh, right here. So a concave lens cures short-sightedness, and it appears if I look at the I see how this works. So if we have short-sightedness, if we look at our eyeball, the light, which should be doing this little pyramid pointing, it's being crossed. That's bad. So obviously, what's it called? Concave is going to fix that. And the exact same for long-sightedness, except a convex. So convex is if it's long sight, concave is if it's short sight. Hope that helps. Actually, no, concave is for short. Yeah, that's what I said. Concave for short, convex for long. Well, that was VI. I hope you guys at least picked up one or two things there. So remember, if you... Oh, and I guess you could just quickly mention the dilation of the pupil and stuff at night time when it's dark. Okay, we'll quickly go through this. The radial muscles of the iris contract in dim light, which means your pupil is going to be dilated, more light can enter. And in bright light, the radial muscles are relaxed. So in bright light, the radial is going to be, chill. In dim light, it's going to be that's kind of it, I guess, for the eye. Now look, I'll be surprised if we get any questions on the eye. I will. Because I feel like they were on last year's paper. And, yeah. But hang on a minute. Are we almost done now? Wow, this stream is getting a lot of likes. Guys, I'm no biology teacher. Go watch an actual biology person explain this shit. Okay? Right. Yeah, 11 views, bruh. Guys, seriously, please, 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 for the love of God. Go watch an actual person explain this, please. So, we're now going to talk about nerves, very quickly. The reflex action, that is the most annoying thing to remember. So, your central nervous system, CNS. That's obviously your spine. I'll just put spine. It's obviously spinal cord. And your brain. Okay. And then you have your peripheral nervous system, which is just your other nerves. But I'm not going to write that because these things are expensive and I don't want to keep wasting my ink writing down stuff that you already know. Right. Let's assume that you touch a fire. This is my best attempt at drawing a fire. Ouch, okay? That's obviously going to hurt. But we kind of have this unconscious reaction, in a sense. Without even thinking, if you touch something that is scalding, you're going to flinch, aren't you? I mean, some people have it a lot stronger than others, I would say, Like, there's some people that probably wouldn't give a toss if they were touching something scalding. And there's other people that if they even felt warmth, they would, have a heart attack. I guess it ranges. But anyways, if we touch it, what is happening here? What's happening? Well, first of all, this is our stimulus. Stimuli. And that's obviously the thing which I guess kicks off the whole reaction. If a stimulus could be like smelling something, it could be touching something. But how is that stimulus actually kind of read? Well, that's through the receptors. So the receptors could be something like our finger. And again, I'm not very good at drawing human hands very well here. So this is my worst attempt at drawing. Look at that, bro. Anyways, look, we're not here to mock my art skill. We're here to do revision, okay? Cry about it in the comments. But anyways, so our receptors could be things like, I don't know, muscles, finger, nose. You get the big idea. Now, what happens initially is our sensory neurons are going to carry this information along. Now a good little thing kind of links it all together is you get your stimulus and then just think sensory. They're sensing it, aren't they? So your sensory neurons, first, I guess you could say, I mean, you have to think these are electrical signals, aren't they? So don't put in the exam that the sensory neuron carries a message, electrical impulse. Now obviously there's synapses. We know what these are. Synapses are kind of almost the junctions between nerves, the gaps between them. And neurotransmitters, the electrical impulse kind of triggers these electrotransmitters, which then secrete this chemical, which almost kind of carries the message forward, carries the impulse onwards. But we know that. We know synapse. Now, sensory neuron is then linked to, I believe it's the... Oh, relay, yeah. Now, what's a way to remember that? Well, obviously you're sensing something, so it's almost like, well imagine this, right? You're out somewhere, and you see like a house in the distance on fire. You're obviously going to probably have a look at it, you know, be like, oh, a house is on fire. And then maybe you're going to run to someone else and be like, hey, that house is on fire. Imagine that person's like the relay nerve, and then they're going to piss off and be like, oh, look at that. Tell other people that the house is on fire, okay? The relay is kind of the messenger, okay? The main man. But anyways, the relay neurons then link to, I believe, the spinal cord. Yes. Now, in a nervous reaction, I'm drawing the spine like this because I think it looks cool. In a reflex action, which remember, if you asked about this in an exam, it would be an automatic response to stimuli. Something which requires no thinking. A thoughtless process. You do it automatically, okay? If you felt something bite you, you would flinch, but you might not even have time to look at what bit you, for example. It kind of happens. And that's because it doesn't go through the brain. Alright? It does not. It only goes through the spine. And that's because the relays are linked to the spine. But remember, in an exam, tell the difference. Is it talking about a reflex action, or is it talking about something that requires thought? Because if it is, it would then, of course, go to the brain. But in this case, it doesn't. Just remember that, okay? So yeah, in a reflex arc, the signal bypasses the brain. It's quick. You are touching something on fire, for Christ's sake. You're gonna want to respond quick. The motor neurons are then they will tell the effectors what to do. The motor neurons. Just remember, motors are the things that move. It's telling your effector, move, or it's telling it to obviously do something. So yeah, your effector is telling your hand to move away. Alright. So, one other thing we should quickly talk about is the difference between glands, or I guess hormones, and your nerves. Number one is the electrical impulses. These are chemicals. Now, many people like to say hormones are faster. Not hormones, nerves are faster. Hormones are slower. Kind of right thinking, but no. If I'm not mistaken, in an exam, you wouldn't get that, but you would get it for saying that nerves are shorter lasting, hormones are longer lasting. That's why, for example, if you're in an event which, I guess, triggers adrenaline, you might still feel very pumped up, maybe even an hour after it's happened. Because hormones are long lasting. And final mark for that question would be just explaining how it happens. So I guess just nerves and obviously glands. Do not mention, this is fast, because, no. Some of them let adrenaline happen very quick. So there you go. What do you guys think? What do you guys actually think? I think we missed out on one little thing. The brain. Now this may not appear, but there may be even a 1 mark question. 1 mark. Now look, if you're aiming for a grade 7, which is what I am, that's what Alex is aiming for, because we need a grade 7, 1 mark could be the difference. I did the math. You need roughly an 110 rounded up. It was 106, if I'm not mistaken, last year. I rounded it up, thinking worst case scenario. Now let's assume last exam, let's assume maybe you didn't do the best. Let's just assume you got 50, half marks. You're going to need a 60%. And this is probably the more difficult paper for a lot of people. So, every mark counts. You could get a couple easy marks there and now for answering some math questions. Couple easy marks for answering some common sense. But a lot of those marks are going to be knowledge that if you don't have, you're gonna not get. Now, I don't know how well I did last paper. It was a bit of a mixed bag for me. I liked the paper. I thought it was nice. But a lot of the things I revised for didn't come up, which means some of the questions, especially that last one about the leaves, it really sucked. Because I don't think that's even a required practical. So how was I meant to know what to do? So anyways, I don't know whether I did the best that I could have. I think if it was a paper like the ones that I revised, it would have been great. The structure of the plants, flipping digestion, flipping... Heck, even enzymes didn't appear too much. I would have gotten 80% if one of them came up, but I probably got about 60, maybe even less, who knows. I have no idea of confirming. So anyways, because of that, this paper is just as important, if not more important. And remember, it's those common sense questions that are going to carry you up even 1 grade. Those common sense questions being the ecology section. I will go through some of the ecology stuff, but I'm not going to spend too much time on it, okay? Because ecology is very much, common sense, but again, there's a couple more detailed stuff that a lot of you guys might not get. For example, I did an exam question on decomposition. I would have gotten a mark for it. And the way I would have gotten all 6 marks is for literally explaining photosynthesis and respiration. I imagine losing 5 marks because of that. I did. So now I won. I won't make the same mistake. Now, let's quickly go over the brain and then we can finally get on to the DNA topic. So, we have, now I am not, should I even attempt, I'm going to draw the brain as a big circle. Right. And I'm going to draw it kind of goofy-like. So that you guys can kind of understand it. Right. We have the cerebral cortex. You already know what this is. It's all of the high functions. Memory, speech, problem solving. It's kind of, I guess, in a way, our life as we know it. I'm just going to put intelligence. Now we have in the back here the cerebellum. And that is the movement shit. Balance, coordination, movements. We have here the medulla. And that's just your unconscious stuff, okay? That's things that you don't even think about. Your heart beating, breathing, you don't think of them things. You just do it passively. So I'm just going to put passive. It also controls signals to the adrenal glands to release adrenaline, but you probably don't need to know that. Heck, I'd be surprised. And then finally, we have the the pituitary gland. Yeah, I know that one. So obviously that's your master gland. So which one is for intelligence? It's obviously the cerebral cortex. Which one is for, just random passive shit? That's your medulla. So you can fire them off easily. Now, guys, later we are going to be doing exam questions. Okay. So make sure you stay tuned for that, because then you guys can comment in the chat and, do your own stuff. Now, let me go quickly check what time it is. Because I would hate to end up... Okay. It is 7:30. Right. I started this stream at maybe 20, so it's been about an hour and 10 minutes now. Yikes. And we've already just gone through one topic. Fully. Now, on this super long YouTube video, we have only just crossed 8 minutes. 10 minutes, roughly. And we're not even done with this topic. Holy shit. Fertility treatment. There are FSH and LH injections. Let's look back. FSH is obviously what matures the egg and it releases the other one, which, what was the name? Shit. FSH is follicle stimulating hormone. LH is luteinizing hormone. What was the other one? Shit. Over something. Estrogen. There we go. See? Simple things you can just forget. Like the name of something. And you can do IVF as well. Now, there are things called intraverter fertilization, IVF. The eggs are collected after inducing a release of LH to be fertilized in a lab. They are viable embryos which are inserted back into the uterus. We will get onto cloning and stuff later. Finally, adrenaline and thyroxine. Adrenaline it releases adrenaline, which increases your blood flow, your breathing rate, your rate of respiration. The thyroid is controlling the metabolic rate. Plant hormones. Do we need to know these? Let's think. We have the gibberellins. Gibberellins. These are germination. Auxin, which basically it moves to the opposite side of sun, and it causes things to grow towards the sun. Phototropism, basically. Then you also have ethene. We love good old ethene. That causes the ripening. Oh, and in terms of auxin as well, it also gathers at the bottom of roots. So there's two types of auxin. There's the one at the bottom of the roots, and there's the one at the, shoots. And that one, is gravitropism because it grows down. Geotropism is its proper word. Sunlight destroys it. So it causes cells on the shaded side of a shoot to grow more quickly. So again, it grows, I'm pretty sure, towards the sun. And then that obviously grows against gravity, because remember. Alright, meiosis. I cannot remember the acronym we came up with this for, but we know it, okay? We kind of know this. We have our chromosomes here, and I'm going to have to use two different colours, I'm afraid, to really help you guys visualise this, because I also need to visualise this. Okay. So we have imagine these are two chromosomes where obviously, number one, gonna replicate, just like mitosis. Just like mitosis, chromosomes replicate. That's the terminology you need to use, chromosomes replicate. Nice. Then, this cell is going to divide, and what's interesting about this is that it produces two diploid cells. Now, diploids are obviously cells which have the correct amount of chromosomes. Haploids are the ones with the incorrect. But what's interesting here is that they swap beforehand. So the similar chromosomes are actually going to pair up. If you notice, you can't in this visual thing, but I'll draw kind of like a butterfly thing here. They pair up because they are going to swap. The genes are swapped between them. Then, is it diploids? Yep, diploids. So those are the correct amount, but obviously they're now going to have slightly mixed up genes. And then the genes are going to divide again to produce haploids, which have half as many chromosomes. So, think about it this way. They start off normal, then the chromosomes replicate, they pair up, and they kind of swap, meddle around, they divide, then they divide again to create your gametes, your sex cells. So, these produce genetically identical cells, okay? These are genetically identical. Very cool. So yeah, they are genetically identical. They are genetically different from the parent cells. Now, sexual and asexual. These came up in paper 1. I am livid, but it's fine. I probably only failed. But most animals reproduce sexually, but plants can reproduce with both asexual and sexual. So asexual happens by mitosis. So it means that they're identical. So asexual is mitosis, not meiosis. That is for sex cells. Remember that. So that means that their offspring cells are genetically identical. Clones. Just like that. Now, the advantage of sexual reproduction is that the offspring could become better adapted. Variation happens. Disadvantage of asexual, if one of these is susceptible to a disease, well shit, they're all susceptible to a disease. That ain't good, Chief. That ain't good. Right, now we're moving on to the DNA topic, but I'm just going to go grab a drink quickly. This is going to be a long stream, guys. Buckle in. Right. DNA and protein synthesis. Right, we already know what the genome is, but let me write these definitions so that they can kind of become hard-coded into your mind, just like DNA. What's a genome? That is the entire genetic code. When people say we found the human genome, that's a pretty cool thing because it's the whole genetic code. Imagine we're like flipping like computers or whatever. It's just our entire operating system in a way, okay? The whole thing. DNA is the double helix polymer. And that obviously is just storing the genetic code. Very cool. Thank you, DNA. Genes are the portions of DNA that code for proteins. So, genome is the whole thing. DNA are just parts of it, which store the genetic code. And a gene is a part of DNA. Got it? Got it. Now, genotypes is the genetic code. That's literally what it is. An organism's genetic code. Phenotypes are traits that are expressed. How this code is expressed in physical characteristics. That's kind of it. Now, triple only, so this is higher content. Monomers, nucleotides, tides, and bases. They are all made out of sugar and phosphorus, or phosphate. So sugar and phosphate. Now, normally, in the diagram, we are given kind of a double helix structure like this, and then we're given little hexagonal, I'm drawing them as squares for simplicity, little hexagonal shapes with circles attached to them. Circles are meant to be the sugar, phosphate meant to be the squares. Now, bases, you know what bases are, A, T, C, G. Every 3 bases, triplet code for an amino acid. That's protein synthesis. Protein synthesis, we already know this. Protein synthesis, so in our nuclei, the DNA, the chromosome, is it the DNA? Yeah, DNA, sorry, not chromosome. It unzips. Okay? It's unzipping. A messenger RNA is going to come along, and via diffusion, it is going to carry the copied DNA and the copied bases, I guess. The copied bases. And it is then going to... So again, the RNA copies it. It's going to be taken to the ribosome, which is going to assemble these amino acids into proteins. Every 3 is an amino acid. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's going to be one amino acid. That's going to be another amino acid. And together these amino acids form proteins. Very nice. So, they're basically folded into shape, you could say. But the correct thing would be they assemble amino acids into proteins. Mutations can occur in the wrong proteins. So, mutations can result in wrong proteins. So if you have a genetic mutation, you might have incorrect proteins being produced. That could be fatal, could be bad. Could be bad. Right, we're officially 10 minutes left of this video. Right, I'm not going to go through alleles and inherited shit, okay? Actually, let me quickly do it. So different versions of the same gene, that's alleles, okay? Alleles, diff versions of same gene. So for example, blue eyes, green eyes, brown eyes, red evil eyes, all alleles, I guess. Or the genes that, I guess, code for them. Right. We obviously have here the, what do you call it? What are these things? Punnett squares? Something. I can't remember what you... The tables. Right. Male, it's kind of weird. I don't think people really care that much about how you do it. But basically, normally it's like male there, female there. But basically, dominant is always in capitals. Recessive is always in lowercase. Dominant is a... something, I can't remember the exact terminology here. But basically, it is only expressed... Oh, that's literally it. Dominant alleles are only expressed when every genotype... Oh, okay. So, good way to remember it, I guess, is just dominant will be expressed if there is only one. Recessive will only be expressed if there are two alleles. And it will only be, of course, expressed in the phenotype. You have to remember that. So yeah, dominant alleles are expressed even when the genotype contains a recessive allele. There must be no dominant allele in order for a recessive to be expressed. Homo and heterozygous, you already know what this is. Right. Variation and evolution. Nice. Darwin's theory is that random shit happens. That's literally it. Random mutations will result in better variation. Animal A might have longer whiskers, which, I don't know, allow it to something. What do whiskers do? I don't know. Some organisms are better adapted to the environment as a result of these just random occurrences. These basically allow them to compete in survival of the fittest, and those better adapted to the conditions are more likely to survive, being able to reproduce, pass these conditions on. So I guess you could argue we all originated from a common ancestor, but obviously as random mutations happened, you get me. And over time, obviously, the desirable characteristics became more pronounced. We have Lamarck's. It's a dumbass. Sorry, no offense, but come on, bro, pick a name. Lamarck's. Sorry. Lamarck's? I don't know. It's weirdly written on this thing that I'm looking at. His theory of evolution is that the environment affects their characteristics, and they're inherited by offspring, so not random. So a giraffe can choose to grow its neck longer for food, and then he can pass it on to the offspring. Weird. It's like, you know, in like games where you can adjust the stats. It's like Darwin's theory is just we're given random stats, and over time they'll adjust each, I guess, time we play. But his theory is that actually we can adjust our stats as we go along and then copy them into a new playthrough. Now, antibiotic-resistant bacteria. Bacteria are bastards, okay? And they can become resistant to a lot of shit. That's why you need to finish the course of your bacteria, antibacteria. Let's assume here that you're ill. Boo-hoo. You have, so this is, I guess, the incubation period, and then boom, you start showing symptoms about here. So then what you're going to do is you're going to take your antibiotics here. Things begin to die, and then, I don't feel symptoms anymore. I guess I'm not going to take them. Well, now you're dead. That was obviously an over-exaggeration, but you get what I mean. You need to finish your course, because otherwise, the bacteria that survived are likely going to have some resistance to it. Some. Which means they're going to keep, doing their thing, binary fission, and you're going to suffer. So it is actually used as evidence for Darwin's theory. Because basically, if not all the bacteria are killed, those most resistant will reproduce. Random mutations can happen, and they can cause a pandemic, an epidemic, because we can't kill them with antibiotics, which means we could easily spread them onto other people. And obviously wearing masks, quarantine, self-isolation, washing hands, those are all ways to stop it. Species are just organisms considered to be, the same species. Selective breeding is where you breed organisms that have desired characteristics to produce offspring where those characteristics are more pronounced. Example, if you want a big-ass cow that gives you a lot of meat, you'd pick two pretty fat cows, breed them together, look at the children, pick two of the best there, repeat until you get something different. Ethically, people say, this doesn't give a chance for variation to occur. It's like we're playing God over here. We're choosing what we want. It's not natural. That could be one reason why people would disagree with it. Another reason, obviously, it doesn't let variation happen. Another reason could be inbreeding. It could lead to severe inbreeding, like pugs and stuff. What's the other version of pugs? The weird ones. My cousin has one. French bulldog. Mendel was actually one of the first people to believe that characteristics were passed down due to, I guess, inherited units. Now you have your classification. Kingdom. Animal kingdom. That's an easy one to remember. Phylum. Don't know how you will remember that. Class and order. Family. Genus. Species. Now, how do you work out the, I guess, correct name of something? It's the bottom two. So like Homo sapiens. Canis lupus. That's dog, I believe. Oh, a good way to remember it is King Philip came over for good soup. Domain is actually the one above kingdom. So like, for example, I think there's one for fungi, there's one for animals, there's one for bacteria maybe? I don't know. So yeah, it's genus and species. Oh, okay, you have archaea, which are the primitive, the primals, primitive bacteria. Bacteria, which is just true bacteria. And then eukaryota. Everything else. Now, in terms of ecosystems, all the organisms, they compete for the same shit. Food and water, essential for life. Space. It's basic human nature that they want to take up as much shit as they want. Space. Light. I guess for plants, that would be a big one. Carbon dioxide and oxygen, I guess, yeah, for plants, probably. And obviously mates. If you want to, carry your offspring on, you're going to need to compete for that shit. Basically, Tinder. Now, interdependence is where organisms depend on each other for survival. And when this happens, a little community is formed. Okay, we have this diagram here when, let's assume this is prey. So the number of prey kind of increases, but then, oh god, they're being killed. Oh my god, and they're going back up. And what's going on here? Why is that a thing? Well, because then you're going to have it's almost like kind of, an inversely proportional relationship. When there's a shit ton of prey, the predators are going to have a nice meal, and then they're going to reproduce, which means then there's going to be more predators to eat the prey, so there'll be less, which means they'll start to die out. It's an inversely proportional relationship. Abiotic factors are non-living factors. Biotic factors are living factors. Abiotic would be like CO2, pH, temperature. Biotic would be like trampling, pathogens, predators, prey. Quadrats. Those are the things that you use to measure the kind of, I guess, estimate of a population. Place them in random positions in an area. 2 marks in an exam for literally saying random coordinates. That is the reason, that is how you would make sure they're random. Count the number of chosen organisms. Okay? And then multiply by the total area and you'd get an estimate. You could also move it along a transect to observe change in population density over a distance. Food chains. You guys know this. You guys know this and you guys love this. Producers. They are the ones that produce biomass, plants and algae. You have your primary consumers, secondary consumers, and tertiary consumers. Typically, obviously, the big bads of the wilderness. Apex predators are always at the top of the food chain, and they always They don't have any natural predators. And organisms also exist in trophic levels, but we could draw a level of biomass here. What do you notice? This is, for example, our top predator. This is our producer. What's going on? How come the producer is making all of his biomass, but then this predator, maybe even a couple predators above it, how come they're barely getting any? How does that work? Well, obviously, biomass can be lost through things such as excretion. It can also just be because the animal that, for example, ate this animal didn't eat all of it. Inedible parts. Water cycle. Boom. Water cycle. All life is carbon based. Look, Rick and Morty taught me that. And you have to have a very high IQ to understand Rick and Morty. Okay, all life is carbon based. And when something dies, it's going to basically decompose back into carbon. So we excrete carbon while we're alive. I've excreted carbon. A bacteria also do this. And when I die, my body will be in the ground. And obviously, little bacteria, fungi are going to nibble away at it. They're going to use my body for respiration. Boom. What are the byproducts of respiration? Guys, what are the byproducts? Well, obviously, we respire. We're making CO2. Circle of life. Cycle. Now, decomposition can also just be used to produce natural fertilizers, help crops grow. It can also produce methane gas. A little bit more on this. So let's say we have a big little thing like this. We have a structure like this. What do you guys think this is? It's not an ant nest. It is basically just a decomposition pot. So the way this works is all of your shit will get put in here. Your biomass, your plants. What you'll notice is they'll normally highlight little areas like this and be like, well, look at that. Those are live plants. Those are dead plants. How do the dead plants keep your live plants alive? Basically, the dead plants, bacteria, things like that, basically decompose them. They use them in respiration. Basically, because they're carbon-based, they use the carbon. Sorry, am I getting that wrong? They use the carbon? No, I'm getting that kind of wrong. So because they use their, biomass as energy in order to do respiration. Uses a biomass for respiration. Respiration occurs, which converts glucose into oxygen. So, we have our oxygen being used to keep that animal alive, But then also, because of decomposition, it releases CO2. These bacteria are releasing CO2. Plants then absorb the CO2 through the stomata? Yeah, through the stomata. The stomata absorb the CO2 into the plants. The plant then performs photosynthesis by also absorbing light. It then releases oxygen, which in turn keeps the decomposers alive. We have literally 3 minutes left, guys. Food security is a big concern due to changing diets, growing environments, fuel and energy prices. all of it being consumed, all organisms losing it when they are alive. So, this video, I believe, has missed out some stuff. This video has missed out one or two things. It has missed out the different types of cloning. So I'm going to go through them myself quickly. We have the most basic types of cloning. We'll do animals first. So, basically, first of all, it's artificial insemination, embryo transplants. Animal A here, animal B. The sperm is taken from animal A, it's put into animal B, it's artificially inseminated with it, and then boom, you get embryos, where you get identical embryos. Hang on a minute, what? Sperm is taken from a bull from a high... Okay, that one's a little bit weird. But yeah, basically just artificial insemination. Adult cell cloning is where you take the body cells from one and you extract the nuclei. Then with another, you take the egg cell, you then combine the two via electricity, and then basically they develop identical clones of the first one. Now, those are just cloning for animals, so it's either artificial insemination or cloning, adult cell cloning. There is also cloning of plants. Firstly, we get tissue samples, we just scrape it. I'm not even going to write this, we'll just... Tissue samples are scraped from the parent plant, put in a petri dish, in an agar petri dish. The samples develop into tiny little plants, and then these plants are planted into compost. So you get a bunch of identical clones. There are other ways of doing it. You could just take like a root or like just a big part. You could take a part, some bit of the plant and plant it in, put some rooting powder in. You could, I mean, that's kind of it really. Those are the two types. Now in terms of embryo screening, I don't know what that is. Let me have a look. Genetic screening, we probably don't need to know this. Oh yeah, we do. Alright, amniocentesis. That uses a small amount of amniotic fluid, which is basically in the sac surrounding the fetus, and you test it for genetic disorders. And CVS is when you test a sample of cells for genetic disorders. So you're testing a sample of cells from the placenta for genetic disorders. And I am done. Without further ado, That is me totally done. I would have loved to sit here, guys, and go on another discussion doing past papers, but mate, I'm fucking exhausted. Whew, Jesus Christ. That has been one of the longest streams I've ever done. Mad. That has been a mad stream. I would love to go through some past papers, but look, it's 8 o'clock now. Maybe I'll come back in, I don't know, should we do some past papers shit? I'm honestly tired. I think if I do any more, I'm just going to forget more than I've learned, honestly. So, in summary, link everything to blood for homeostasis, link everything to diffusion. In terms of genes, you know the basics. Honestly, the worst thing that could come up. You know what, let's go through some past paper stuff, man. I want to bloody kill myself, but we'll keep going. Right. Let's look at the... We'll look at the 2018 one. Right. Are you guys ready? Many humans have reflexes. Sorry. You can tell I'm tired. Many human actions are reflexes. Which two of the following are examples of reflex actions? 2 marks. Easy, we got this. Jumping into the air to catch a ball? Nope. Raising a hand to protect the eyes in bright light? Yeah, because you notice it, you instantly do it. So releasing saliva when food enters the mouth? That's not really a reflex. Running away from danger? That's fight or flight, that's adrenaline. Withdrawing the hand from a sharp object? Yeah, you touch it, you flinch. I think that's an easy 2 marks. Let's bag it. No! I was lied to by Mr. Brown because he did mention this. No. Releasing saliva when food enters the mouth. Interesting. I genuinely, hand on heart, did not know that that was a thing. I was never informed by anybody that that was a reflex action. I guess it just happens automatically. So 1 incorrect, 1 correct. Well, we'll do a little mark. Incorrect, correct. 1-1. Wow, they bested me already. Figure 1 shows how the size of a pupil can change by a reflex action. Name 1 stimulus that would cause the pupil to change in size from A to B. Light. Bright light. You wouldn't have gotten it for saying bright light? But you would have gotten it for saying heroin? What? Okay, I guess I'm incorrect. Unqualified. Clearly. Bright light. You gotta be specific for these fecking 1 markers. Structure Q causes the change in size of a pupil. Structure Q would be the radial muscles. No, it's the iris. But I thought radial muscle. The iris causes it. I was never taught this. Fucking hell. This is why I shouldn't do past papers the day before exams. Oh, I've just given myself a mark there. How does structure Q cause the change in size? The radial muscles. But I guess it's apparently the answer's muscle contraction. I've been fucking lied to by someone here. You couldn't say radial/circular? I've been fucking lied to by this video. They literally said muscle Oh man, this is gonna be exactly how it is in the exam as well. You just know it is. You just know for a fucking fact. But we are gonna get questions on fucking this exact shit. We are gonna get questions entirely on this. Seriously, bright light, 1 mark. Iris, 1 mark. Muscle contraction. The iris contracts, which causes the pupil. Is it the pupil to dilate or contract? Did not know that, but that's good to remember though. The iris causes that. I always wondered what the iris was. Okay, figure 2 shows some structures involved with the coordination of a reflex action. 6 marks. Describe how the structures help coordinate a reflex action. Lovely. That is lovely. Your receptor obviously detects the stimuli, passes it through neuron A, which is your receptors. No. Your relay, your motor. Sensory neuron, relay goes into the spinal cord. And then I guess you could talk about synapses. Receptor detects stimulus. Receptor generates an electrical impulse. The neurons conduct the impulse. Neuron A is a sensory neuron. So you could literally get 3 marks for saying that. Nice. Effector carries out a response. Okay, that would have been a nice 6 marks. 11 marks, and I would have gotten 3 wrong. But that's for not knowing about the eye. The eye is shit. Many scientists think the global air temperature is related to the concentration of CO2. Complete table 1. Wow. Okay, 1960 to 77. It appears... Oh, this is a tough one. This graph is really weird. You have to be very... You have to be very picky here. That is an awful graph. It's very squiggly and it kind of stays the same. That's quite a picky question. I'm gonna give myself two marks. So, many scientists think an increase in CO2 in the atmosphere causes an increase in air temperature. How would an increase in concentration of CO2 cause an increase? What could you say here? Because I know for a fact, if I check this mark scheme, global warming will be incorrect. Yep, exactly. Traps heat. You literally could have gotten a mark for saying insulate. Jesus Christ. This exam is bullshit. I'm gonna get none of this right. Bro, that is awful. That is one of the worst. I mean, I get it. It traps heat energy. It insulates. But bro, I wouldn't have put that. I would have put cannot be absorbed into the atmosphere or some shit. Evaluate evidence for and against the theory that an increase in concentration of CO2 causes an increase in air temperature. As it is clear carbon dioxide is increasing. However, in the years 1980 to 85, it can be seen. However, it appears, for the most part, that the air temperature is remaining constant. It is remaining constant, despite the increase in CO2. I would get none of this right in the exam, because what should be some bullshit, ready? Overall increased, okay. What? I don't get what? You had to also just talk about the theory? Oh, okay, yeah. Honestly, I pray to God a question like that doesn't come up, because my God, would that be so bullshit. In each year, the concentration of CO2 is higher in the winter than summer. Give one human activity that could cause higher concentration in winter. More lights. More higher usage of lights. It's the most generic thing. Burning of fossil fuels. What do you mean? Obviously that's the answer, but like, no? Like, I don't like that at all. Because it says one for winter, which implies that it is something exclusive to the season of winter. Burning fossil fuels happens every day. It's not something that just magically happens in winter. I think that is a bullshit. I think that is utter bullshit. The next one, give one biological process that could cause okay, well that's easy, obviously photosynthesis. Two possible effects an increase in global temperature could have. Plants dying due to humidity. Oh no, plants increase. Bro, I don't know whether I'm so tired or whether this is the most bullshit exam I've ever seen. But bro, plants will grow faster, I guess. Loss of habitat, migration, extinction. Okay. I'm heading off because it's clear that we're past our